We are now recording.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Natasha Allen, and I'm the Director for Career and Technical Education at the ICCB. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's session, which is part of the ICCB Summer Faculty Professional Development Series. Before we begin, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. During the presentation, please remember to mute yourself. If you have a question or comment during the presentation, please feel free to type in the chat box. After the presentation, you may unmute yourself to provide feedback or ask questions, etc. This presentation, as well as all other presentations and supporting materials from this series, are available on the ICCB website. I've inserted the link, or I will insert the link into the resources in the chat pane, so you'll be able to access it from there. And just to let everyone know, the session is being recorded. So with that, I would like to introduce today's presenter. Shania Gray is an assistant professor, counselor, and coordinator of the Counseling and Career Development Center at Moraine Valley Community College. During this presentation, Shania will discuss how current unprecedented times have affected us and will provide to you strategies for coping and practicing self-care. Shania, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Natasha. Hi, everyone. It's good to join you today. I wish I could see you in person, but given the circumstances, it's just good to see names out there. I don't see a whole lot of faces. I know how it goes with Zoom, but it's wonderful to be here and to present to you today. I see some of my colleagues and my dean included, and so it's wonderful to see some familiar faces here as well. Thank you for choosing to come to my presentation today. And I have been here, just a little bit about myself, and Natasha introduced me. So I've been on faculty in Moraine Valley for the last 5 years. My background is in clinical psychology and in counseling. And so being a part of the Counseling Center here at Moraine Valley, it's wonderful because we get to serve students from a holistic perspective. And so we get to really help them, and basically as they're traversing college, as they're trying to get through, we are there to be able to help them make it through. And so, as you've known, the last few months have been probably really difficult for a lot of us, and probably sometimes even worse for a lot of our students. And so even at the Counseling Center, we've seen a large uptick of students needing help and needing services, because right now everyone is trying to figure out, how do I navigate a pandemic? How do I manage with everything that's going on? So I'm going to spend the next 40 minutes or so kind of sharing with you basically how can we navigate what's going on in our society today. Because as faculty, we care about our students and we want to find the best ways to help our students. But one of the first things we can really do is also ensure that we take care of ourselves, because when we're stressed, as we'll see today, a lot of times that ends up being reflected in all aspects of our lives, from our personal lives to our professional lives, how we teach, etc. So I thought I would present today not only for the benefit of your students, but for the benefit of you as well. So I'll go ahead and pull up my presentation at this time, so I can share the screen. Oh, we did. Okay, here we go. So today's presentation is entitled Self-Care and Coping During Unprecedented Times. So first of all, who do you identify with in this picture? Is it one or is it all three? I know for me, there are times where I've felt like the cat on the left and then it's fluctuated, right? So us navigating this pandemic has been interesting, depending on our circumstances at home. At home, I have a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old. So beyond working full-time at the college and trying to help students, I'm also dealing with my 2 little ones. So I know for all of us, we've had different levels of stress that have really gotten to us during these last several months. And there's so many days that maybe we are a little frazzled, and then there are days where we feel like this cat on the left, and we're just having one of those days. So a study from Harvard Medical School in collaboration with the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, looked at people, how they were feeling in January compared to how they were feeling in May. And it broke it down to see, were people in society more stressed than how they were feeling in January pre-pandemic? And would you know it, that it came back that pretty much everybody is feeling a lot more stressed than they did before. So what they discovered is that over 50% of people they surveyed were concerned about these particular issues in particular. So people were concerned about finances, they're worried about the breakdown of society, they're frustrated about not being able to enjoy regular activities, they're stressed about their own health, as well as they're stressed and worried about the health of family and friends. So essentially based on this survey, what the researchers concluded was that at least 1/4 of the US population, so 25% of us, are presently in a high emotional distress, okay? And it's attributed to the pandemic. So it is normal, and there are at least 1/4 of us feeling extremely stressed because of this pandemic. So today I am going to talk to you about the effects of what's been going on. And I took it from a mind, body, and soul approach. Oftentimes in psychology, when we look at what is happening to a person based on mental illness, based on how everything is happening with them, we take that mind, body, a lot of times we'll take that mind, body, emotions, or soul approach, where we look at how is it affecting their mind, how is it affecting their body, how are their emotions, their behavior, their soul being affected. And so today I really wanted to take a mind, body, and soul approach for you to share with you how the pandemic has been affecting us and how perhaps we can navigate and we can manage during this time. So let's talk about the mind, first of all. Have you been at home working and you've read the same thing over and over again, and you still have to figure out, okay, let me focus so I can figure out what exactly I'm reading, because of an inability to concentrate? Maybe your 5-year-old is yelling, "Mommy," or you're hearing a ruckus downstairs, or you're looking around at the pile of laundry that you need to do, or the news is on and you're seeing the death toll for the pandemic. Well, our mind is severely impacted by stress normally, and especially stress in this pandemic. What ends up happening when we are stressed, if we were to think biologically, is that the prefrontal cortex, which is that area of our brain that does the higher ordered thinking, that prefrontal cortex, what ends up happening when we are stressed is that the amygdala takes over. So the prefrontal cortex kind of takes a step back, and the amygdala, which is that part of our brain that when we are stressed, when we have that fight or flight syndrome that happens to us, that is the part of our brain that tends to kick in. And so when this happens, this causes us to really have that inability to focus and concentrate. We start feeling muddled thinking, okay, I just need to get my thoughts clear. I have a paper, I have a report that's due, I have to get ready for the lecture in class. Like, I need to really focus and get this done. And this is something we've done over and over, but we've been feeling, oh my goodness, I can't seem to get this figured out or get this straight. And I've done this so much. We've had issues with hasty decision making, or we're constantly worried, or just making a judgment has been difficult for us. And I want to tell you that that is normal behavior when we're stressed out. When we're stressed out, it really is hard for us to focus, and it's hard for us to achieve what we have previously achieved when we're not stressed. So a lot of times, and there've been numerous articles that have come out which have shown that many of us who are working from home or taking a lot longer during the day or working after hours into the evening and the night to get everything accomplished. And that's because a lot of times it's taking us sometimes almost twice as long to achieve everything we need to achieve because of the stress that has impacted us. So with our mind, we find ourselves frazzled. You know, I like this picture here because you can see all the thoughts going through his head. Like, okay, there's food. I'm thinking about food. I might be thinking about safety. I'm thinking about focusing, concentrating. I'm thinking about the family. There's, you know, all of these different aspects of our mind are being impaired and affected during this time. The other part of the other part of us that really essentially gets impacted during this time that stress really takes a toll on us tends to be our body. All right. And I'm sure if I gave you a moment right now to kind of check in with your body and feel, okay, where is that tension happening? Where am I sore? Where is it that's starting to hurt? I'm sure many of you will point to your shoulders, your back, your neck. You're feeling it there, right? And it's even been exacerbated since we've been at home. We've had instances because a lot of times our home wasn't set up to be an office space. We have our offices, which are often set up so that we can have good posture and so on. And we've had to create makeshift spaces at home. So that has impeded us and that has impaired us, along with what happens with our body when we are stressed is that cortisol, the hormone cortisol, is being released. And so cortisol in our body really does a doozy on our body, essentially. It really messes with our body. So we end up having headaches, back and neck pain, insomnia. I've found myself up much later than I used to be. At 12 p.m. and 1 p.m., I've discovered that it's really, really difficult for me to go to sleep sometimes. And I've found myself sometimes having to take a sleep aid to go to sleep. Overeating or undereating, that can often happen to us when we're stressed. Again, that cortisol is working in our bodies. Poor digestion, right? We find ourselves reacting to foods we wouldn't normally react to. In extreme circumstances, you can find hair loss. You can find breakouts happening because of stress. You know, restlessness, unable to find that space that we need to function in, that comfort, that we're always moving and so on because we're really restless in that time. And increased, what happens with the stress and to our body is because of this, and because this constant release of cortisol, there really is an increased risk ultimately for hypertension, heart attacks, and stroke. So not only are we stressed out in the mind and we're stressed out in the body, but really and truly that constant, if our bodies stay in that chronic state of stress, then we are going to be at an increased risk for hypertension, heart attacks, and strokes. Beyond our mind and our body is our soul. Our soul, when I say soul, I have chosen to use the word soul to be encompassing of a few things, right? I've chosen to use soul to be encompassing of our emotions, and of our spirituality, and just for who we are, okay? So what we've discovered is the stress and this pandemic, beyond affecting our mind, beyond affecting our body, that it's affected our spirit and how we feel, okay? Sometimes we're feeling discouraged because we're watching the news and we're like, God, when is this going to end? It's really disheartening, it's discouraged. discouraging. Sometimes we're feeling overwhelmed. We're wondering, okay, there's so much coming at me. There's so much I have to do. You know, for me right now, I'm thinking about my kids in the fall. Okay, will they be on virtually? All right, I'm still going to be working, my husband and I. And so how are we going to navigate this virtual remote learning and try to make sure that they have everything they need during that time? And so that is how I'm struggling right now, is sometimes feeling overwhelmed, you know. There's some who are feeling hopeless, powerless, like, what's going on? You know, there are many people who've been affected, they've lost their jobs, they've lost loved ones. And so sometimes that really comes with the feelings of feeling really sad and lonely and hopeless and like powerless. Like, I can't do anything about the situation that's going on right now. And I really feel that I've lost that control that I so much need to have. In other instances, there's several who you might feel irritable or angry, right? Because if you're not getting a good night's rest and your body is aching and you're feeling overwhelmed and your mind, you can't concentrate and everything is piling up, it is inevitable. You're going to feel irritable and angry. And then we have the idea of there's some who really feel like they're losing hope and they're losing faith in this instance. You know, times like these really do test us, and they really do see, you know, it's hard for us to navigate and hard for us to really, really deal with these times. And so sometimes there's some who really are losing faith. Like, if there really was God out there, why are you doing this? Or I don't have faith that this is going to work out. Or there's so many instances right now where people are losing faith. And then ultimately, you know, we've seen a lot of students at the counseling center who maybe they already suffered with mental illness, because again, the population is 1 in 4 students, 1 in 4 of our population, our American population as well, will suffer with a mental illness in their lifetime. And so we've had students who either they already suffered with depression or anxiety, or if they didn't, now they are. And if they were, it's being exacerbated. You know, one of the things I would tell my students, or a person I was working with who suffered with anxiety, is please don't watch the news, right? Because the news can really make it worse and can really make you worry a lot more. And so what we're finding are that there are so many of us struggling with these things because of the current pandemic right now. And we're really struggling with the day-to-day because our mind, our body, and our soul has been affected. So what can we do to cope during this time? And I guess that's the good news here today. I spent the first 15 minutes kind of talking about everything that's wrong. And so I really want to share with you about what could we potentially do to cope, and what could we do to help our students cope. So when we learn how to cope, we can definitely help our students to cope and to function, and we can make it through this together. So I am going to, so one of the first things we can do to cope, I always share, is breathe. And breathe, sometimes we take breathing lightly, but one of the things we struggle with, and one of the things that happens to our body when we're panicking or when anxiety or fear has struck us, is that inability to breathe. And so what has been discovered as research has been done is that if we breathe and we inhale deeply, we breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth, and we practice deep breathing, that helps us tremendously. Not because it's making us feel better and there's no reason. The scientific reason is that when we are anxious, our sympathetic nervous system kicks in, and that's what causes the adrenaline to go, and that's what causes us to that fight or flight syndrome. So if you're seeing a car coming at you, or if you recognize danger, you're going to kick into that adrenaline mode. But then when we breathe, the parasympathetic nervous system kicks in, and it re-regulates our body. It takes our body back down from the heightened state it was in. So when we practice deep breathing, it is very, very important for our state of mind, our body, and our soul. Sometimes I enjoy practicing deep breathing in combination with the essential oils. One of the things we do at our office a lot of times here at Moraine is many of us have the diffusers in our office. And for me, let's say I've just attended to come back from class and then there's a student in crisis and there are other things going on. Sometimes I will put on my diffuser with some peppermint oil and I will do some deep breathing before I have to move on to the next thing, because I need to be in a state of mind to be able to help the student in front of me and not just think of everything else that is going on in my mind. So breathing is very important, and oftentimes this can be in combination with scenic photos. I'm actually going to show you a short video right after we finish talking through these points so that you can see a little bit and practice a little bit what I'm talking about. And in combination with some of those oils, that peppermint oil especially, it helps to open you up and help you as you're breathing. The other thing I talk about as we are trying to cope is really that we have to set and have realistic expectations, okay? So there's so many of us who are achievers and who are perfectionists, and we expect the best of ourselves and of our students and everyone around us. We are expecting that we can be able to do more. We can be able to accomplish so much more. I've seen some friends post, so what have you accomplished in this pandemic? Now that you've had all this time at home, what have you accomplished? And, you know, I've posted, well, I've been able to help, you know, to manage my day-to-day tasks, help my family. My kids are still alive and they're still breathing. I can hear you all laughing, right? My kids are still alive. Everybody's fine. Everybody is safe. Everybody is healthy. And that's what I've accomplished. And so we have to really set and have realistic expectations for ourselves. When it comes to our students for class, do not think, okay, because I won't see them face to face, I need to give them more work to prove themselves. No, we want to make sure we cover the curriculum and really impart the knowledge we need to our students, but we have to be realistic about what's going on with them and what's going on with us. If we are struggling, they're going to be struggling too. And it's going to perhaps take them twice as long to accomplish what they would have before. In addition, what are the circumstances at home that many of our students are dealing with? You know, with the school being remote, many of them have families. With jobs, some of them are looking for jobs, or they're working a lot more, especially healthcare and retail and everything else. So we really, in this time, need to have and set realistic expectations, because what happens for us as well when we do that is that one of the things that really discourages us, you remember me talking about discouragement a little while ago, is that if we don't set realistic expectations for ourselves, we get really discouraged because we become disappointed in ourselves, that we think we failed, we've not been able to accomplish what we set out to accomplish, and so that really gets us down. But if we constantly set those expectations, and that rolls into that positive self-talk to say, you know, I'm doing the best I can, I am accomplishing what I need to. It may not be all I set out to accomplish at the beginning of the year, but circumstances are different, and I am managing, I am coping, I am doing well. There's so much good going for us right now. Let me talk myself to the point where I am realistic. Let me have that positive self-talk, right? In that too, we are gonna stop the negative thinking. We're gonna stop when I think, oh my gosh, when is this thing going to end? Oh my goodness, how much longer are we going to be in this? Oh, what if, you know, and we can go down that what if line. So many of us do that. So many of our students do that. What if I can't get this finished? What if this pandemic is never ending? And we have to stop that trail of thinking, because that is really not healthy for us. We have to really reframe and rethink, okay, let me take it one day at a time. Let me try to cope. Let me talk myself into managing, into coping, because if we don't, then we really find ourselves struggling. The other thing that really can help us is gaining perspective. So with the realistic expectations and the positive self-talk, etc., we want to gain perspective. Perspective is this is not a normal time. It is absolutely not normal. So perspective says that we should not be striving to accomplish everything we're used to accomplishing during this time. Okay, so that's where we need to gain perspective. Perspective is also, we may not know when this will end, but it will not last forever. Life will eventually get back to some level of normalcy. Okay, so we really have to keep that perspective. Perspective could be, I really need to think about my students this semester. And although I may cover 90% and not 100% of what I want to cover in class, that's okay because it's not normal and we just need to make it through together. Okay, the other thing we want to do to continue and to help our mind is to keep that routine. Okay, it's very important that we give ourselves a routine and we have a space that we can utilize, that we can say, okay, let me focus right now and let me keep that routine. What is that routine? Am I waking up at 9 in the morning? Am I continuing to take that shower? Am I getting ready? Am I going to even dress up and put on makeup for the ladies? Or am I, making sure I'm groomed and all those things? What is that routine that is going to give you that level of normalcy in your mind that you can continue? And then finally, I would say, do not overload yourself with information. So sometimes I have to really stop myself because my husband and I, we're CNN junkies. And so CNN is often on, and it's just pandemic information after information after information, hearing all these studies. And so there's always this tussle, right? Because I want to know what's going on. I need to know what's happening. I need to know what happened today. Is the governor going to roll back our provisions? How many cases tested positive in Illinois? What's the latest? But we have to really find that balance of wanting to know with our sanity. If we really overload ourselves with information, we're going to continue to overwhelm ourselves. Okay, so what I'm going to show you now. So I am originally, you like my background, I like to pretend I'm at home in Barbados. This time last year, I was just reminiscing because my best friend got married. So I was there a year ago. The picture showed up on my Facebook feed. And so I'm going to show you a little bit of a video of Barbados. And I like it because it shows you the ocean and the scenic view. And I just want you to take a few minutes and do some deep breathing just to show you how relaxing something like this can be as we continue with this presentation.
I called Kara, left a message. That's about 15 minutes ago I called.
Okay. Well,
He said 2:30, right?
Right. Yeah, it was 35,000. That was the number. And then she just wanted to talk about the insurance. The cross-book share, I think it was some money from that.
Is she how much and anything?
About what?
How much for Russ they're gonna try to take?
Oh, no, she, I don't know, like, I couldn't talk to him, so they're not gonna call me.
All right.
So she has a 3 o'clock appointment, what do you call it? Fairies or whatever it's called. Oh, so she leaves at 2:30.
Oh, she's got time to call.
Okay. So I won't worry to show you because we're running out of time to show you the whole video. But if we were there, I would say to you, go sit on the beach, take some deep breaths in, really enjoy the scenery, really enjoy the green, really enjoy the fresh air, the ocean, but we're not. So we have to find what we can do here, right? Should we watch videos like this? Should we paint, plaster ourselves with scenic, have scenery on our computer, take time to watch those videos. It's hard, right? Because one of the things about Chicago sometimes is I pretend the lake is the ocean because Lake Michigan can look like that. But I can't right now because Lake Michigan is closed. So what can I do within the realm of possibility right now to really calm myself and give myself some room to breathe and some room to meditate? And so could be one of the things you can do. So we talked about the mind. Now we're talking a little bit about the body. Okay, so breathe again. I will always say, make sure you're breathing. The other thing is to make sure you're moving. So what has happened to me, and oftentimes I've found my back and my neck and my head hurting me, is because sometimes I will find myself on the computer doing work from 8:30 a.m. And when I turn around, it's 2 o'clock and I haven't gotten up to get lunch. I haven't gotten up to do anything at all. And that's not good. While I'm in the office, even though I'm working, I'm moving around. Okay, I'm going to meetings, I'm going to class, I'm moving. When I'm at home, everything is virtual and everything is in one place. And so I've found myself not necessarily moving. And so one of the things that's recommended we can do is maybe at 5 minutes to the hour, set an alarm. And that reminds yourself, okay, I need to get up, I need to move. Whether it's I do some jumping jacks, whether it's I run around the house, whether it's I just go walk, I need to get up and move. I cannot sit still for that long because it really, really hurts our body and it's really not good. The other thing I want to share with you is to dance. And why I say dance is do what makes you happy and what can get your body moving. So this video right here, I wanted to show this video. This is actually my 5-year-old. And anytime he hears music coming on, he gets up, whether we're watching a movie, whatever we are doing, my 5-year-old gets up and starts to dance. Okay, and so he loves his music and he is dancing and he doesn't care who's watching. He doesn't care at all. He's just dancing and enjoying himself. And so we can learn from this 5-year-old where we do something that really brings that spark to us while we're getting movement, while we're getting our bodies going and moving. Okay, so I wanted to share that with you, as well as walking and exercising. Is it yoga? Yoga can be so good for our body. Yoga is really, really good. Walking. Am I going to go for a walk around the block? Am I going to walk to the store? Am I going to go for a bike ride? What am I doing? Especially right now, I count down because we know our nice days are numbered in Chicago. We absolutely know that. And so are we making the most of it right now? Because in a few months, we will really be struggling for this. So what are we doing to get up, to have our body going? The other thing we have to consider is having good posture. So do we have a good chair at home that we're sitting in? Sometimes I'm really bad and I'm on my bed. And that's not good. My back really tells me when I've made a mistake, when I do something like that, when I'm not at a good place, a good location. I have the chair, do I have the support? Really and truly, we're supposed to be looking eye level because as we constantly look down at the screen, that's going to hurt us. So do we have good posture? And then are we keeping that routine? Are we really keeping that routine for our bodies and our mind? We need to absolutely keep that routine and make our bodies, help our bodies to feel good. Like we have to pump ourselves up, as I said, with the grooming and the dressing and everything else. We have to ensure we're doing all those things. Okay. And then I want to talk about what can we do during this time as it pertains to the soul. All right, so we talked a little bit about how our soul is being affected, you know, whether it's through our emotions, whether it's depression, anxiety, whether it's that loss of faith, that loss of hopelessness. What could we do to really help our soul? So we talked about helping the mind, helping the body. And so let's talk a little bit about the soul right now, okay? So let's talk about increasing meaning. What do I mean by increasing meaning? So for me, one thing that increases meaning for me is my faith, right? I am a Christian, and so I believe that everything is working out for a purpose. This is my belief. And I try to see how life is going through the eyes of my faith. And that has given me a purpose and a meaning, so that even in the midst of suffering, in the midst of injustice, in the midst of lots of stuff happening right now in our community and society, I am trusting, for me, I am trusting that God has this plan, that God has this worked out. And so that has increased the meaning in my life. That has really given me purpose. And when we talk about wellness, you know, a lot of times we talk about physical wellness, mental wellness, and so on. But one of the things research has shown is that spiritual wellness is very important. And that's not just going to church. That's not what that is. What spiritual wellness is really answering that why question. So we know why, you know, why are we doing what we're doing? What is the purpose? It's kind of that existential Yalom question for those of us who've studied psychology as to the why of what's happening. So we need to discover that to increase the meaning in our lives, okay? And then we want to stay connected. It is so easy to isolate ourselves, right? Especially if you're living on your own or you're seriously an introvert. You have to force yourselves to stay connected. You're not necessarily seeing people on a regular basis, but maybe you need to FaceTime, you need to Zoom, you need to find a way to stay connected to people. Do not isolate yourself. As much as you might be tempted to, don't. And if you know you're tempted to, what you can do is have somebody be accountable, that you're accountable to. And that person could be like, hey, what's up? I haven't heard you for the day. Are you okay? I'm just checking in, and get that person there to check in on you. The other thing we want to do is laugh. We hear laughter is good for the soul. And so what makes you laugh? What is it that you enjoy? You know, is it I want to watch a comedy show? Is it that I'm just going to joke with my friends and my family? Is it that I'm going to play games with my family? What is going to make you laugh? So I encourage you, laugh. Laugh is good for the soul. And feed your soul, okay? Feed your soul, whether it's through prayer, through meditation, through mindfulness, through certain readings. Feed your soul. Don't neglect your soul. I would encourage you to feed your soul, all right? And practice affirmations. Practice really affirming yourself, building your self-esteem. Practice affirmations. Self-affirmations are very helpful. I can make it through this. I can get this accomplished. I am not, you know, I'm going to get this done. Let me practice affirmations. I'm going to be okay. We're going to figure this out. And let's practice those self-affirmations. The other thing is we want to maintain balance. What I have discovered is it is so much easier to lose balance once you're working from home. One of the things that I've realized, it used to be, you know, there was a certain amount of work I would try to leave at work. So on the journey home from work, I would decompress from the day and enjoy music and so on, and catch up on conversations with friends and so on that ride home. Now there's no ride home. Home is work and work is home. And so we can find, for those of us who work a lot, we can find ourselves losing that balance. Are we maintaining balance? Are we shutting down the computer at a certain time? Are we trying to still protect ourselves and set our boundaries for ourselves? Because that's healthy. And so we really have to find a way to maintain that balance in our lives for ourselves and our family. Next, talk about extending grace. So we want to make sure we're extending grace to ourselves and extending grace to others and to our students. So, okay, I didn't quite get that accomplished as I had planned to. You know, I was going to clean the whole house upside down and I was going to finish all those reports and my sons were going to get all their work done and I was going to cook 5 meals in that day. Well, not really, you know, but you get the point, is that sometimes we don't know how to extend grace to ourselves when we've really put too much out there for us to do. So we have to learn to extend grace to ourselves and extend grace to others. And this is especially pertinent for our students in the upcoming semester, because they're going to be struggling just as we are. And so we have to think that this is not a normal time, and how can we extend grace? And then finally, last but not least, don't be afraid to get help. And what I say by help is there's professional help, as there are many therapists and counselors who are there to walk hand in hand with you. Most are doing work virtually. And so we do not be afraid if you are struggling, if you need that extra encouragement, do not be afraid to get help. Do not be afraid to encourage your students as well to get that additional help to get you through, okay? And then what you want to do is you want to remember with our students, there's some considerations as we think about these things, okay? Our students, they have circumstances sometimes beyond their control. Okay, myself and my husband, we made the decisions for our home. But my 10-year-old does not make a decision. And I'm sure if he was 18 and living with us and in community college, he wouldn't be making that decision either. If I said to him, you got to take care of your little brother, he got to take care of his little brother because we got to go out. We may have to run an errand or something. So many of our students who are often first generation students, because we serve a large underserved population. That's why we're a community college. A lot of times we have students there who have absolute wonderful potential, who are very smart, who are very bright, but they don't have the resources. They don't have the funding to go off to, as yet, four-year universities. We know we serve underserved, at-risk populations, and oftentimes they have those circumstances where they have responsibilities in the home. They have to take care of their little siblings, or they have older family members they're also caring for, or they're working a lot to support the household. So or, you know, what we've had, you have 4 or 5 kids in the house and there's one computer. And so they're switching out computers, or they're trying to find the resources to get done what needs done to be done. So you have to remember that we have circumstances, our students will have circumstances beyond their control, and we must remember that. We must remember the students we are serving. And as you have seen with this pandemic, it has exacerbated already big problems. We've seen that African Americans and Latinas, Latinx have been more affected, that the death rate is higher among that population for the pandemic, and it's just not something that came out of nowhere, but it's due to a lot of systemic issues that have already existed. So we have to think about these things, okay? We serve a large underserved population, and that cannot be overlooked as we're helping our students. As well, remember, there's more beyond the pandemic. So there's a pandemic plus. Okay, right now, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about what happened to George Floyd and the racial injustice and everything that's happening in our society right now. And so we have a lot of students that are struggling with that, and they're also struggling with these issues, okay? They're also struggling with the issues of racial injustice in our society. I know I am, I know my family is, I know I've been doing a lot of work with it, but I'm affected as well. And so there is the pandemic plus, there's the pandemic plus everything that existed before. And so we have to remember that. Also remember that as this is new to them, this is new to us, this is also new to them. So we have to remember that as well, and that they are struggling and trying just as we are. So sometimes we can be a little bit apathetic, or we can be a little bit cynical, because we've been hurt, you know, by students before. But we should remember that the students, a lot of times they're trying and they're struggling just as we are. And so what we need to do is we need to figure out how we can make it through this together. As you start class, I would encourage you, acknowledge and recognize what is going on with this pandemic. Acknowledge and recognize what can be happening with our students. That is huge. For students to recognize that you are exhibiting empathy, that you are acknowledging this, that you are just not saying, this is going to continue, life is as normal, my expectations are as normal. You have to really set that tone for your students. Let them know, even have a conversation about it. Are you going to incorporate an assignment about it? Maybe a reflective assignment to learn how they're being affected right now. But set that tone as you are working with your students. You can discuss it. How is it affecting? Make sure you share with them the additional resources that perhaps are available on campus. Here at Moraine, we have like our Emergency Financial Assistance Fund for students. And so we're sharing that information. Students are reaching out. We're trying to help the students as much as we can. So think about that. Think about, if I were in my students' shoes, what would really help me during this time? What, especially if I were working, or if I were struggling at home, or if my family, there's somebody in my household who lost a job, or somebody in my household who got sick or passed away. And we're going to find that. We're going to find with the death numbers that are occurring that where students are going to be affected. They're going to be affected by loss. And so that is something, again, we cannot gloss over, we cannot overlook during this time. And so as we move forward, as we learn how to cope and how to manage, may we also help our students to navigate this. May we be able to really walk hand in hand with them so that we can all make it through this together and we can accomplish our goals. So thank you very much for allowing me to present to you today. Now we will open it up. If anybody has any questions, any comments, feel free. I'm not sure. Maybe the moderator can speak a little bit more about that, but if we have any questions or comments, feel free to share. Tasha?
Yes, thank you so much, Shania. Does anyone have any additional questions for the excellent presentation that Shania just did?
Or if there are any thoughts, I would be happy to hear any thoughts, or anybody want to say anything? Sure.
I wanted to thank you for the great PowerPoint, the clarity, very nice. It's good job. And I think you covered everything we need to know from this point. So that's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So everyone knows that PowerPoint is already linked up to the website. So the website that I think Natasha put into the chat box, it's there, our ICCB website.
Yep.
Great.
I'd like to comment on the mind, body, and soul aspect, Shania, when you spoke about the challenges to the mind, but then afterwards you thought, what can we do for our mind, body, and soul? I thought that was great. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria.
I did some deep breathing during your presentation and I already feel better.
That's good, and we have to. We absolutely have to. I put this background in about a week ago, and I haven't taken it out because I actually like looking at it.
I know, I do too.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. I hope you benefited from this presentation. Feel free to reach out to me at Moraine. My email is on the PowerPoint, grayS44@morainevalley.edu. With any questions, with any thoughts, but we can make it through this together. We can navigate it, and we can help our students navigate it as well. So thank you again.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.